Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's Transformation Talk. I am here today with the beautiful Cynthia Haynes. She is a photographer who does intimate portraits with women, and they are stunning. So I am so happy that you're here. Cynthia, thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
And one of the things you do is work with cancer survivors.
Yes.
And I would love for you to tell us your story about how you became this kind of photographer. So we could use the term boudoir, but it's a little bit not right in the sense that it's so much more. There's so much beauty and intimacy, and it's not just a sexy shot. So
yeah, that's what I'd like to say about it. I feel that boudoir right now the market is kind of saturated with it, and everybody who thinks if you have a bed and somebody in lingerie that's boudoir, and there's an essence of a person that I really want to capture, and to me it goes beyond that. And boudoir is, to me, it's whatever you feel sexy in. If you come to me in a sundress and you love that, then it's going to show, because it really is about, it's not what you're wearing, it's who you are. So, nothing is as beautiful as anything you're wearing as the woman who's wearing it. So I like to focus on the essence more than that.
Yeah.
So to back up and answer your question, I do work with cancer survivors, cause unfortunately near and dear to my heart. I am a stage 3 breast cancer survivor. I am 6 years out now. But I had this experience that I would never wish on anyone. I felt this lump one morning in the shower, and at the time I felt it, my first thought was, how did I not feel this yesterday? Because it was so large. And so I consulted my doctor, Googler, and decided to diagnose myself that it couldn't possibly be cancer, because everything I read and had heard about cancer was that it was small and rolled like a pea. And this thing was huge. It was huge. And they said if you cysts, it feel like if you press on your eyeball. And so I thought, well, that is what this feels like. And being a doctor's daughter, I decided, well, I probably don't need to have this checked right away. So I let it go until I was having outward signs of some distress, some internal stress, and I knew that I couldn't put it off any longer. So I went to a gynecologist, and she did a needle aspiration. It came back negative, and hooray! And then she said, whatever this is, even if it's not cancer, we need to get it checked out. So she sent me to, stubbornly, I went kicking and screaming after 3 more weeks, to a breast surgeon who did a punch biopsy, which also came back negative. Yay! So, and her thought was, this mass is so big, we're probably glancing off the side of it, and we're not even getting a piece of it. So I really want to go in and make sure that we know what we're dealing with. And so we did that again under protest from me. I'm not sure why. I think I was scared to know the truth, really, and as long as I didn't know, and as long as I couldn't see it, it was fine. And so not the smartest move on my part, and I do not recommend that. And so we went forward, and it was to the point, it was 9 centimeters. It was very big. Yes, and attached to my chest wall. And my only option at that point was massive doses of chemotherapy and a double mastectomy. They wanted to do a single, but ultimately I decided on a double. I didn't want to go through it again, and I wanted a matched pair. Let's be honest. I didn't want them to be. I thought, if I'm going to have one freaky boob, I'll have 2. So. I did research, and I found an amazing surgeon who did her training actually in art. She was a sculptor. So she had a photo book out called Reconstructing Aphrodite. Wow. And it was a series of women in various stages of reconstruction from age 24 up to like aged 80. And I thought, okay, this is it. This is an artist's soul in a surgeon's hands, and this is who I want. So At the end, I had to have my chemotherapy first due to the size of my tumor. At the end of that, when we did my surgery, I was just recuperating. I had the type of cancer that doesn't have any sort of follow-up medication because I didn't have certain markers in my tumor. So I was part of an experimental drug to follow up. I was just starting that when my mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So we had just a little over 3.5 months with her before she died. So I had these two massive things happen within a short span of time. Within that period, my marriage was also dying a slow death. And by the time that my mother's funeral came around, I knew that we were pretty much in a dead space. And so I just had all of this stuff happen, and I didn't know what to do when it was all said and done. So I hadn't told very many people at work what I was going through. I didn't want anyone to treat me differently or special. So I went back to work. I went back to, I was a senior paralegal at a firm, and I'd been doing that type of work for about 17 years. And I wasn't functioning well as far as my feelings went. I wasn't dealing with really what had happened because I had always gone through everything very strongly and just kind of pushed through it. So I went back to work at a job that I admittedly didn't like, and my soul just started to wither. It just really was dying. And we didn't do anything to change the state of the marriage. I was still there, and I 2.5 years ago decided to have some portraits done because I thought nobody's getting any younger, and I want to see what I look like now, scared as I was to do so. So I found an amazing photographer, Krista Miola, who is in LA. She was in LA at the time, and was able to have this session with her. And I was floored by the way I felt about myself in seeing these images. I saw a journey that had been rough. I saw a journey but culminated in joy, and I saw a light in my eyes and a determination and beauty that I don't know that you see every day when you look in the mirror. And I became very curious about maybe doing that for other people. So I talked to my photographer. I talked to Krista about it, and she said, I think that you'd be great, because I had done most of the directing on my shoots with her. And so we worked together pretty intently, and she was really helpful in getting started. And the first session that I did was so liberating for both of us. And I just felt great that we were collaborating, we were dancing together, we were, just really having a great time. And I feel like that really showed in the images. And that's the message that I want to send to the world is, nobody's perfect. Absolutely nobody. And so it's not just survivors. It's women on a daily basis. I feel that we are so quick to tear ourselves down, and my ass is too big, and my boobs are weird, and my left arm is bigger than my right, whatever it is, and we just focus in on that. And I've watched different men, and they just don't do that. They just don't do that, and they're a little paunchy, they don't have hair, whatever it is, but they don't let it define them. And I feel as women that we do. And so that is my hope, is to kind of get this message out there. I've also started a series called the I Am series.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yes. Where it's, I ask you to pick a word that defines you in that moment. It doesn't have to be anything greater than that. And so it is still intimate. It's words on skin, and it's wherever you want it, wherever you're comfortable, whatever feels good, and we paint it on. And then it is a portrait where typically your face isn't necessarily in it. It's more just your word, your body, your message to you. So hopefully you would put that up somewhere and remember that you are powerful and you are strong, or you're vulnerable, or you're smart, whatever it is that you want to own, whatever it is, whatever word you want to rock that day, let's do this thing. So, and that has seemed to really have spoken to a lot of people when I tell them about it. I get a lot, I want that, I want to do that. So I decided to make that a sliding scale program, and then donate all of the proceeds to cancer charities. So,
yeah, well, the images on your site are just beautiful. They're so beautiful.
Thank you.
I want to come do a shoot, but I don't know which one I would do. There's, a couple of options, and they're so gorgeous. They're all just incredible.
Oh my gosh, I would so love to get you in front of my camera. Let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm putting it on the books. So, good. On your website, you actually talk about how you went through your journey, and you say that you wish you'd done it differently, and if you can, you want to encourage people to do it differently. Can you talk a little bit about what that really means to you?
Absolutely. Like I said, I didn't tell anyone what I was going through. I kept it in a very tight little circle, and looking back on it, I wish that more people knew, because I feel that I could have been a different story for them in a way. A lot of people tend to think, oh, this is the worst thing that could ever happen, and oh, how would I go through it? And I just decided to go through it. Were there rough days? Absolutely. And I'm not saying that I'm any stronger or better than anybody else. It was just, that was kind of my decision, was just I call it warrior mode. I just kind of went low emotions, get through it, do whatever needs to be done. But to kind of, I almost feel that it's a disservice to people who care about you to not let them be there. And to not like I said, I think that it can be a positive experience for them too, and seeing that it affected me, but not completely. It didn't take me out. I was still able to work. I was probably a little grayer on some days than others, but there was an attorney in my firm who, shortly after I was diagnosed with lymphoma. And so she called a few times just to talk through some things, and she said, I'm not as strong as you are. I just can't. And I said, you're doing it your way, and you're fine. You're absolutely fine, the way that it's happening for you. But I didn't tell anyone, I had cut my hair, and I had kind of dyed it a different color, in part so that the hair that fell out wasn't the hair that I knew and loved. It was some weird hair. And then I got wigs, and oh my gosh, wigs are hot. They're so hot, and not in a good way. No. If we do a shoot, a wig can be fun, but not when you have to wear it. And so people just kind of thought that I was messing around with my hair, and that's what I wanted. But there's a power and a beautiful vulnerability that comes out in people who are honest about what they're going through. And being bald in front of the camera and documenting that journey, and not in a sexy way, in a very raw way. I would love to do a series, complete start to finish, with someone like that, because looking back on it, you don't feel like it at the time. Trust me. I'm thinking, I didn't even want to look at myself bald. I did not want to look at myself bald, but you have this great documentation of this story that you've lived through. You have your scars, you'll always have those, and they tell your story too, but what a fantastic thing to look back on at some point and say, I am badass, look what I did. And nothing took me down. It took me, sidelined me for a little bit, but I'm still here. Mm-hmm. I'm still here. So that's probably the biggest faction of why I would do it differently. Mm. I feel that there's a gentleness and a strength that nurtures the self in doing that type of acknowledgement of what you've been through. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I agree. So, you had stage 3 cancer, your double mastectomy, your mom died, your marriage was dying.
Yes.
when did you leave the marriage? Was it before the photos, after the photos? Was it part of the grieving process? Like, how did that all work for you?
It was pretty much right after the photos. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's a fantastic man. He really is. We just weren't growing together anymore. And I had so many things in my life that felt like anchors. Everything felt weighty. I had a job that wasn't fulfilling. I had a marriage that wasn't fulfilling. And I didn't know what else to do. I felt stuck. I felt literally like I had one foot nailed to the floor, and I kept going around in a circle saying, I want something different. I want to do something different. And yet I wasn't reaching down and grabbing that nail and pulling it out so I could go. And I scheduled a photo trip to Italy. Italy was on my list, and I so wanted to go, and I went with a group of photographers, a bunch of people I'd never met from all over the world. It was a great experience, but I was ready in that moment to let it all go. And I walked through the streets of Venice, and literally I was in Venice my third week there, and I just came alive. I absolutely came alive in Italy, and travel changes you regardless. And I came back a changed person, and I knew that I couldn't stay where I was. I knew that nothing in my life was working, and I had to make some changes. So I ended up, we kind of solidified separating. We made those calls. I went back to work. In September, I had gone to Italy in April. In September of that year, I started a leave of absence, which ended up to be an extended leave, which ended up to just be I left. And I couldn't go back. I just wasn't in that same space. And so there I wasn't doing good work. And I really wanted to concentrate on doing something that I felt good about, and something that hopefully brings a little joy to the world, and definitely brings joy to mine. And so that's kind of been my path. And I am not, in my wildest dreams, would never describe myself as a risk taker, but I'm feeling very different these days. And I'm doing some things that I've never done. I came back from Italy and I went skydiving, and I want to get my pilot's license, and I realize that time is ticking, and it always will be. And I want to speak to women. I want to get up in front, and I want to encourage them to tell their stories. Everybody has one. Everybody has one. And I think it's a very kind and nurturing thing to do, is to give someone a space where they feel that what they have to say matters. And you can do that in front of the camera. And part of the package that I offer is really kind of a full intensive experience. It's an interview, and there's a series of questions that tells me a little bit about you. Who are your favorite authors and why? And what's your favorite line from a movie? And things like that, because you are more than your body. It's an outward representation of all that inner yumminess that's in there. And I want to know who that is before you show up in your chonies and on the bed. And I really want that to be the message, is, if you could have your own issue of Vanity Fair dedicated just to you, oh, hell yeah, I think that's awesome. So that was kind of what I started thinking about, is what would I love? How would I love to represent a little chapter of my life at this point? And so that's what I came up with, and I hope that that's interesting to other people as well.
So when they can actually get like a glossy magazine with their photos and their interview questions, and that's awesome.
Yes, yeah. So it's fun. I didn't want to offer just 8x10s, because with this type of photography, most people aren't going to put it up in their house. You're not going to hang it on your wall. But I thought, if you have a magazine that's really just about you, and even if it is a little bit intimate, I'd put that on my coffee table. I'd show people. I wouldn't be embarrassed. And because it's not just, oh, look at me and I'm this. It's, look at me, I'm this.
Right.
And so I kind of came up with this idea, and I'm I'm working through a couple issues on the design, but it's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to really to. I actually have a couple different products. I have that same interview process in a slick glossy magazine or in like a vintage type book on this lovely archival paper. And it still has your same information. It still has your same quotes and questions. And it's just a different, for if you're slick and glossy girl or if you're a little more, down home girl. So.
Wow. Yeah. And I love that too, because it's really the difference between being a sex object and being a woman. Like,
exactly.
It's not about look at me, it's about see me.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
I'll finish with my last 3 questions.
Okay.
So, if you could wave a magic wand and change anything about the world, what would that be?
I would have to revisit what I said earlier and give everybody, even if it's just 5 minutes, to see themselves in this beautiful light, the way we see our friends and our families, and this gentleness for just a second. And within that, find that power to risk one thing and just see how you feel. Just knowing you couldn't fail, knowing it was just A-okay, and there was nothing that would happen to you. Because I think collectively the power that would come from that, and the sense of self and the esteem and the confidence, oh my gosh, we would propel ourselves into some crazy space. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Wow.
Yeah.
It certainly worked for you. Having
Yes.
those photos taken. What a change.
Yes.
What brings you the most joy right now?
I would say sitting with friends and hearing what makes them come alive. I had this, oddly enough, I had this experience last night with a friend who, just felt completely open enough to reveal some things to me, and it was beautiful and touching, and so much so that we were both crying. And I thought, I love these types of connections. I really do. And because they're real and they're honest, and we tend to get so caught up in the busyness of our everyday that sometimes we miss those moments. And so I would say capturing a moment brings me great joy, whether that's on my camera or where that is.
Mm-hmm. So. Nice. And what is one fun or unique fact about you that makes you uniquely you? Fun or interesting fact?
Oh my gosh. Okay. When I was a child, I used to pretend in the bathtub that I was accepting my Oscar award. My shampoo bottle was my Oscar. And obviously I had some foresight then, because I also did infomercials. I didn't know at the time that that's what they were, but I would do soap A and soap B, and which left the tiles cleaner. So in preparation for my Oscar, I knew that I was probably going to have to do some schlub jobs and infomercials, apparently. So there's my fun fact.
That's awesome.
I'm a little wackadoodle. Yes, I am. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Cynthia, thank you so much for talking with me today. Yeah, and I just love what you do, and wow, what a journey you've been on. It's been fun, and there are some scary points still, but I feel overall that things are going to be okay. Yeah. There's that gentle voice that you have to have, and just say, yeah, I'm doing what I feel in my heart I need to do for me right now for the first time ever in my life, and it's going to be okay. Absolutely. So, well, thank you so much, and I look forward to talking with you again soon and taking some photos. Yes, please. Okay. Have a great day. Thank you. You too. Bye. Bye.